Okay, everybody, this is part two of BISS 4403. As I said last night, 6 o'clock to 7:30 is the ground-based part, and you need to be over there in the classroom physically. Okay. Then the virtual part of this is part two, where I finish up the 150 minutes of instruction with a second follow-up session that I post. Okay, now we covered database concepts last night, and well, first of all, here's the video, the screencast, excuse me, from yesterday. So you'll want to take a look at it. Let's go down to the modules here. And we started working on these. We were working on the access workshops, and I basically did a quick overview of what we had covered in week one. And then, of course, we have the access workshop one is simply uploading Northwind traders. Then we had the fact sales tables. We talked about the different types of tables. And then we worked on workshop. Then we looked at what workshop 3 and 4, where we had extracted, we ran a query, and then we took that query results set and we sent it on we exported it to Excel, where we could do some more work with it. Okay. Well, I think I still have, I think I still have the Northwind Traders downloaded here. Let me check my files if I see it. And I don't, so I'll have to download it again. So I'm going to come back over here, and we're going to be working on Northwind Traders. So I'm going to download it. Okay. I'm going to enable the content, and I'm going to save the file as an access database. I'm going to save it. I'm going to call it Northwind Traders, Armin Keith. Okay. And I'll put it on the desktop, and there it is. So I'll enable the content again, and I'll do the login business. All right. And we talked about this form, okay, this little dashboard that they created for us. But I want to talk now about building tables, and I want to spend some time on that. And now, make sure that everybody's clear. These exams from the POTSI text, those are due as well. And so we're going to start with the tables, and we start first with the customer's table. Now, this is really customer contacts, and you can see the authors have added in a whole series of fields, and this is all about reaching all of the information to reach these folks. Okay. Now we're going to talk about how I create a table. So we're going to go to the design view, and you remember we did some of this in BISS 1123, but it's good to refresh ourselves. And of course, last night, okay, we clicked on the database tools, tab, and remember we came in and we looked at the relationships, and we saw all of these tables that were all connected to each other, and we talked about those connections, and we will how they are joined. And as you start to stretch these out, you get a better picture about everything is connected. Now, one of the primary ways that we do a join between two tables is we take a foreign key pardon me, we take the primary key for a table and bury it in another table where it becomes known as a foreign key. And let me show you an example, okay? Here we have the order details table, okay? And we have a, let's say an orders table. Here's the purchase orders. There's the order details. Now I want you to notice something, okay? Here the order details their status. Here we go. And we have a key status ID. Here in the order details status, it's a primary key. How do I know? I see a little key. Remember, this is from 1123. And it is now a foreign key here in the order details table. And that's how we link, typically we link tables. And we'll talk about this when we get into joins. But I wanted to spend some time looking at how we build tables, because everything starts with them. All right? So you'll probably remember from 1123 that I can go into the design view, either from a tab, okay, or I can come up here on the left and go into the design view. The design view includes the field name, the data type, any descriptions, and if this was out in the real world, this is not optional. Every time when you created this and every time you altered it, any of these fields, or you added a field, you'd have description in there with what was done, who did it, and the date. Few people will have access to a table. Now they'll have access to forms that can populate a table, and we're going to talk about how we control some of that in terms of data, in terms of referential integrity. But just for now, let's look at this. And we have the customer ID, and it's an auto number. And what that means is every time we add a new customer, it gives us a new number. Okay? The nice thing is that means every single record is unique. And you saw the term normalization yesterday, and we probably talked some about that before. But we want to make sure in a table that every single record is unique, that we never have duplicate records. First of all, at a certain amount of records, it becomes a waste of money. And number two, even taking the waste of money and putting that aside, it gives you anomalous results when you run reports. And the whole idea is for me to have a table from which I can extract data that I can combine with data from other tables to leverage the law of large numbers and find that shark I'm after. You remember I talked about that, okay? Access being the mother of all databases, all the commercial products out there are based on access. So once you're used to how this operates, you're good to go. Now this is a course called Data Administration as opposed to Data Management, because what we're not getting involved with here is writing the code to take a database and put it into a web page or put it into an e-commerce platform, okay? we're not talking about how we take data except for forms and input the data. We have forms and we see those that are used. And the forms, all of these should collect data that we can convert to information that gives us knowledge, i.e. insights about about transactions or operations or our external environment. Those are typically the three. And that's how we build, as we talked about before, that balance between that business intelligence, okay, versus our ongoing operations, balancing the two of them off. And why you have a dashboard, and the dashboard you might have as a first line supervisor is going to be different than the dashboard that's viewed by the executives of the company. So here we have the field, and we're going to create, and you can see the field name, okay? And then we have some tools here that we can use if we care to. Now, if I want to control the input for business phone, I can do so. So I'm in the business phone field and it has short text, and I can use a thing called an input mask. And I just clicked on input mask right here. And this will let me make certain that the data the data entered into the table in that particular field, in this case it's the phone number, have a particular format. And this is like having a password where you have to put in your username and then you have to put in a password. That's an input mask that says you got to fill out both of them correctly. This is an input mask to make sure that the data are entered uniformly. So I'm going to click try it, okay? And you can see I'll put in my office number. Okay, there's the area code. And then, okay. And I'm given prompts that will tell me how to input the data. Watch what happens when I put in another digit, an extra digit. It won't accept it. Why? It wants 3, 6, 10 digits. Your area code, the prefix 585, and the suffix or extension 4416. That's my office number. And it shows me what it will look like. So if I click next, okay, that's the input mask. And if I click next, it says, okay, you want it with or without the symbols? Now I want to show you something. When I put without the symbols, this shows you how the machine reads this. But it just puts the digits together, it crams them together. But if I ask it to be put into something I as a human being will see and understand, then I use the symbols and I'll click next and I'll click finish, and there we are. Now we're going to go back up to the view. Remember, I can either right click here on the tab or I can come up here and we'll go to the data sheet view. And we're going to save the table. Now let's come over here to the business phone and scroll down here to the bottom and notice something. You'll see the input mask. That way I make sure that phone numbers are entered uniformly. I could do the same thing with their home phone, with their business, with their mobile phone, etc., and their fax number. I could do the same thing with their postal code. I could build here for state and province a lookup table that will give me the 2-letter designations for every one of the 50 states and an explanation. Okay? And I would just simply go out and collect the data and get that accomplished and add that in as a lookup table, as a piece of referential integrity. So we want to have some control of the data. We'll talk about this at some length again later on. But here we have the country or the region. We have the web page, the notes, etc. Now, this table itself, we did a little bit of an improvement there by doing that, by adding that in. And I can just create a table if I want to. And so save the changes, I'll put yes. Now, let's create a table. It's pretty simple. I can, in Access, which is the case with most commercial products now, I can use what's called the graphic user interface. Now, you can also write code, SQL, to create a table. And we'll see that as we play around, as we work with some code later, a little bit later on in the course. But for now, we want to just simply make a dimension table. And so we'll click Create, and I'll click on this icon, and I want to go to the table design view. And I'm going to put the first field name would be currency. Okay. Now, I have a decision to make. Do I want to use long text or short text? Do I want to put it in as, and this is the, in fact, this should be current currency name. And I'm going to use short text, so I have a field size of 255 characters. I can, I can shorten that down to 25. I don't think we have any currencies that are more than 25 characters long. Just to be on the safe side, we'll make it 50. Why? It's a storage issue. And then we could also have, we have the currency name, and we could have the country. And we'll do short text again. And we'll put the country at 50. We'll put it at 75 characters. We better put it at 100. So we have the currency name and the country. And let's see, what else do we have? The currency name, we have the country. And what else could we put in here? The kind of currency name, the country, and that's good enough for now. Now, I'll go back to the design view. Well, I'm in the design view, excuse me. And here I'd put in the description, the date I made this change, etc. Now I could also have the currency symbol and that could be, we might have a hyperlink. We might have a hyperlink out to, we might have a hyperlink to a photograph or some kind of character. We may have some characters that we could put in, but yeah. It doesn't matter. You might have some picture, you might get some, you might go out and get some JPEGs that you put in there or have a hyperlink out to currencies. Well, in fact, let's just go ahead and do this currency symbol. Let's make that, we'll make it a hyperlink, and I'm going to diminish this down for a second. And I'm going to go over here to world currencies. And the list of world currencies by countries and territories. So I know right now I better go back in here to my table. Country or territory. Okay. And I'll diminish this back down. And I've got this whole table right here that I can take it, put it into Excel, and import it. And I'm going to do that. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to copy them. I'm going to see if I have any way above here, if they showed us a way to download these. And then I'm going to come over to Excel. And I'm going to open it up. I'm going to paste special, and I'm just going to paste in text. Let's see what I get. Currency or territory. Oh, that's beautiful. The currency, and it's ISO 4217 code. Now I have some problems here because I've got these A's and B's, so I want to come through here, and I'm going to delete that row. Do the same thing with B. And we're going to import these. Okay. I'm going to start with, go with C. I'm going to get rid of it. So we looked at an export. We're going to do a little bit of an import today. And I'm going to delete that. So we'll go down to E. We'll find the F's. We could have tried to use the import wizard to maybe shorten this process, but I don't think it would have. There are the H's. Here's the I's. And the J's. And the K's. And then the L's. It's a little bit tedious here, but this is just part of this issue. working with data. And building a table. But we're building a table of currencies, which will be useful to us. So if we're operating internationally, and we're getting there. Won't be too much longer. I should probably have this all prepared, but I wanted to show you. Delete. Companies that start with countries that start with a T. And we're getting there. We're going to do an import. Again, a little bit tedious, but this is some of, when you hear people talk about big data, 90% of the work is just simply getting the data, is just simply getting it, all cleared out. Now we've got all this stuff down here, and I don't know what all this is, so I'm getting rid of this. And I'm going to rename this World Currencies. Okay. Now I want to add something. Let's see. We'll go back up here and make sure. Good. I have the country or territory. Those are my fields. These are dimensions. This is a geographical dimension. Where is this place? The country, the territory. Then this is just simply a name dimension. What's the name of the currency? And then we have a ISO, International Standards Organization, codes for each code for each currency. Okay? And so we call these dimensions. These are variables. Now I could run counts on this stuff. I could find out how many countries are euros, etc. But I'm going to save this on my PC here on my desktop. And I'm going to call this currencies. Okay? I'm going to close this. Now I'm going to do an import. All right? And here's how I could build my table. In fact, I'm going to close this. And I'm going to close. Okay, so we have this table 1, and I'm going to click external data, and I'm going to import and link. And I'm going to look around on my desktop, and I'm going to find the currencies. I'll click open, and now I'm ready to import the data. And this is the import spreadsheet wizard. I see the first row indeed has column headings. And they say, well, let access add a primary key. And I'm going to do that. We're going to use an auto key. And we could do the country or territory. So I may just choose my own primary key. I'm going to do that. I'm going to press choose my own primary key, and that's going to be the country or territory. Because those, I know those are all unique. And then I'll click next. World currencies table. So let's see if I can find the currencies table in here. Well, I guess they wouldn't let us do that. Let's see. Oh, there it is. I misnamed it. World currencies. Now we're going to open it up in Design View and take a look here. Okay. Now notice something. It said I can't have any null values. So I've got to check up here and see if I have anything where there's something missing. And I don't. This doesn't look right. Let's go back in here for just a second. I don't know where it's getting this null value business at. So I'm not satisfied with this. And this, again, this is just the kinds of stuff we run into when we build one. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to get rid of it because I don't like what I'm looking at. I don't think it gave me everything. So it's simple. I'll just delete it. And I'll get external data again. But it told me I had some null values. So I'm going to go back here to my currencies table. And see if I have any null data. Don't think I do. All right, so I think we're good there. We'll go back to the database. And I'm going to import. And I'll go over there and find that desktop. Okay. I want to find the currencies. And I click. Okay. My first row contains headings. And I'll click next. And I'm going to go ahead and let Access add a primary key. Let's see what happens. And we didn't get that null value warning last time. So let's open this up now. And here we have all of the currencies. They all have a unique ID. And so if I wanted to, now, we'll go back and we'll look at the design view. I've imported data from an Excel sheet And I have the ID, which is an auto number. I have the country or territory, the currency, and I'll call this the currency name. And I'm going to tie these two together so they don't. Country or territory. So I don't have to have an underscore to connect them. I've got that ISO. I'll just tie that all together. And then let's look at it. Save our table, and there we are. Now, if I want to, with my customers, okay, and I'm going to come into the customer's design view, and I'm going to add a new field, currencies, customer currency. And I'll save that at 255. Now, I'm going to create a drop-down menu. And I'll go look up, and I'm going to get a thing called a combo box. Okay? And it says the table inquiry. And the row source type, and then the row source, and you see the three little buttons, boom. And I'm going to come down here to world currency, and I'll add that. And I'm going to get the currency name first, and the company or the country or territory, and the ISO 4217, and I'm going to run that. Then here in a little bit, just a few minutes, we will have used an import to build or increase this table. I'm going to stretch this all out so I can see everything. I've got some long characters. Okay. And I'm going to close this. Now, on country currency, I have short text. Back up here to general. And if I put long text, I practically have no limits there. 255 is the limit anyway. Now, I'm going to click, I've got the lookup. And I should have that all set up for me to look at. There it is, the combo box. Now I want it to come in here. I have one bound column, and I have three columns. Okay. And then I'll come down here to the column width. And the first one is going to be, I'm going to make them 1 inches each. And so I'll put a 1 inch and a semicolon, 1 inch, semicolon, and 1 inch. And that ought to do it. So we can go back up here. And let's scroll over here now to the customer currency. Okay. And let's see. Why I'm not getting this. Let me go back here for just a second. Oh. Let's go back in here. Why did I make it a lookup? And I should be good here. There it is. I'm sorry. My apologies, everybody. And it has this little slider to let me indicate the currency. Okay? So we've done a little table building there. We've used an input mask. We did an import on this. Now, we'll do one other thing with this customer's table. And we'll go back up to the data sheet view. And scroll back over. And so have these folks are all in the USA. So I'm going to close this off. With the world currencies table, I'm going to close it. The customers table, I'll say yes. And I'm going to export this table. Now I'm going to right click it. And I'm going to send it to Excel. And I'm going to browse and put it on my desktop. And it's there. And I'll find the customers. Here it is. And let's open it up. Now I can do some work with this table. I have these addresses. In fact, if I had the proper zip codes, I could throw these all into a map. But I can do all kinds of analytic counts and I use a pivot table. If this is a real customer list. Typically, what we do when we're working with these tables is we will export a query. All right. Now, here we have a fact table, and here's what we call a dimension table. Well, no, yeah, this is kind of a mixture of a fact table and a dimension table. Notice how it uses the drop-down menu to tell us what privileges they have each time. Let's look at the order status table for a minute. Yeah. This is a true dimension table, and you'll understand why I'm saying. This is a thing called orders status. It's a dimension table that tells us the status of our orders are these: new, invoiced, in other words, new one, we got the order, invoiced, we've cut an invoice to requisition materials or whatever, we have an invoice. We shipped it, and then we closed it. Okay? We get verification, then it's a closed order. So we know the order was received, fulfilled, and sent. All right? These are dimensions. These are types of status variables. So now we're in a position to go into the orders table and take a look at it. Now we'll open it up. And let's go to the design view, and we should see status. And there it is, the status ID. Now, just to make it easy for me, I'm going to do a lookup. And that's okay, I've got that. So it looks like we have one already. So I'm going to come back up here to the data view. And I'm going to click on status. I have closed. I don't like this for a simple reason. It doesn't tell me what I'm working with here in terms of the order ID. So I'm just going to use this. I'm going to go back and improve this. So I'm going to go back to the orders table and go to the design view. And I'm going to come down to the status ID. Okay. Now I've got a lookup, and I have a combo box. And the row source is the order status table. And I'm going to get the status ID. Wait a minute. I don't want to do that. I'm going to get the status name and the status ID. Now I'm going to run it. Okay. Now, so I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to change this. And I've got one bound column, 2 column counts. And I'm going to make these 1 inch each. 1 and then a double quote and then a semicolon, 1 and a double quote, and I'm good. Now let's go up here now and take a look at the status ID. And notice, look at that. Isn't that nice? if it's a close, I know it's a 3. And that's okay. We're good there. And it's given us some issues here with the tax status. So I'll just choose, I'll have to reverse these so I know which is which. And that's not a big deal. So we'll go back. Let's look back up here at the orders table and we'll go into the status ID and we'll just reverse that. Because it's giving us a match number. So I'm going to put status ID, status name, run it, and then those 2 numbers, because the machine thinks that I'm linking the tax and the order status together, and I'm not, but I'm not going to fight that battle. So I've got the row source and 1 inch and 1 inch, and I'm good. We'll go up to file, pardon me. We'll go up to the table. I'm going to save the table, and we'll come over here now, and we have this guide that helps us in terms of the status ID. As you can see. So if it's closed, I know which ID to enter because I have the drop-down menu. We'd want to have the same thing on tax status, okay? But tax exempt, etc. Okay? So we've done some work with this table, and it's not in bad shape, but you see that it's a fact table because it lists all of these orders, inventory purchased. All right? This is a fact table. Who purchased what and how much did they purchase? Again, I could take this table and export it into Excel, use a pivot table, use charting, whatever, to visually display the top items, okay, in terms of the quantity purchased, to provide myself some kind of output. Now, as I mentioned before, some of these tables are more critical than others, and I'm going to close this off for a moment, and then I'm going to open it back up. Here's my Northwind Traders. And when I open it up, I get the login. You can log in as any one of these people. Notice this is using a drop-down menu. You see it? Has their title and their name. I'll log in. And here's the dashboard, or a portal, whatever you want to call it. Active orders. We have any? Product details. Do we need to reorder any? And will even tell us here's a reorder level. Okay. And then we can go over to some quick links, customers, key performance indicators are going to be facts, stuff that's happened. What active orders do I have? Okay. What do I need to reorder and how much? And down here implied is another key performance indicator, and that would be sales reports, in which I can choose what I'm after. But we've got to have the tables for all of this to happen. Now I'll show you as we move on down to see the value of these tables and building them. Here's a table, here's a query called customers extended. This is a query. All right. Now, if we want to see how this query was built, there are a couple of ways. First, we can go down to the design view, and you remember this looks very familiar to you from what we did in BISS 1123. We had 5 or 6 basic kinds of cases there in Access. And I'm going to spread this out so you can see these completely. This goes on and on. And we're looking for a particular ID and then a particular company. If we really want to see what's going on here, we'll go down to the SQL view. And I'm going to take this out here for a minute and put it into a WordPad. Or maybe I might put it into a Word document so you can see a little bit better. So I'm going to open this up and open a blank document. Boom. And then I can start, and I'm not going to take the time here, but I can break this down to show you the SQL that was used to generate this query. As we go on up here, I'll go back to the data sheet view. This is everything about the customers, all of their ID, job titles, etc., country, region, zip code, customer currency. And then we see an employees extended query. But before I do that, I'm going to close this off. Okay, we'll send you changes. But I'm going to click on the customers extended. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here to database tools. And I'm going to click object dependencies. This object, in other words, this query, is dependent upon some objects. So I click objects that depend on me. I'll click objects that I depend upon. It depends on the customer's table. Okay. The objects that depend on it are the orders table, these 3 queries, and these 3 forms. So you're saying, Dr. Harmon, this tells me that this query called customers extended, it's the basis for this table or a piece of this table, as well as these queries and these forms and reports? Yes. So this is the quick and easy way to see the downstream data flow, if you will, and then the upstream. What is this dependent upon? And it's pulled from the customers table. Well, folks, that pretty much does it for today. I think we've had a pretty good run with this, and at this point, this will be part 2. We've done some table building. We'll do a little bit more when we meet Tuesday night, and then we'll be in a position, I think, to start to talk about the lunches database and starting to run some query, write some code to do some more queries. Okay? All righty. I'll see everybody Tuesday.